Alrighty, and also a big thank you to our other sponsors who make this whole thing possible. InHatch doing a wonderful job on the mobile CRM. Vetch Recruiting, who are the fine folks behind the bar. Without them, this whole thing would not be possible. McCarter and English, a law firm that works with startups. Oxio, a company that does something really great. Scald and Bowery Capital. So a big thank you to all those great companies out there. As you can see, I did a really great job prepping tonight. A couple of notes real quick. First and foremost, our next event is going to be on May 19th. It is going to be hacking the sales process. Really cool. We're actually going to have a guy who's the first enterprise sales person from Salesforce with us that evening. So it should be a really cool event. Also, just a little bit of a housekeeping note. As you're leaving tonight, as you're cleaning up and all that good stuff, I ask you to please use the recycling facilities for cans, bottles, and all that good stuff. But tonight, we have a really cool speaker here. We have Jeremy Donovan, who he's been a featured TED speaker. He's done TED Talks. He's the SVP for American Management Association, managing both the sales and marketing function. And it's actually really cool how we got him here tonight because what had happened, I actually cold called on Jeremy, I guess about 6 to 8 months ago, something like that. Sent him a note via LinkedIn. I was trying to get an intro into the HR department at Gartner. Composed a really, what I think was a really kick-ass email to Jeremy, telling him all the great things that we had in common, really trying to build rapport. And he was nice enough to introduce me to the HR department. In addition to that, we wound up linking in on LinkedIn, and from there I finally said, please, please, please come and speak for us. So Jeremy is going to be hosting a session tonight on how to perfect the sales pitch. In addition, Jeremy is also a great author. He actually wrote the book on how to deliver a TED Talk, and I think he's going to be giving out a few copies this evening. So with that, real quick before I do turn it over to Jeremy, anybody who's going to be speaking this evening or doing your sales pitch up there, one thing I would ask is just hold the microphone kind of close to your mouth here, so that way we can all hear everything that you guys are doing. With that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Jeremy.
What Mike didn't say is that I actually thought he sent me the best spam I ever got. I'm a connoisseur of spam, actually, because I need fodder for my own sales team. I have 70 salespeople who work for me. I need fodder for them to actually go out and find people. So when I get great spam, I share it. And I actually used Mike's email to go train my own sales force. So it was a lot of fun. And the company I work for now actually also sends a lot of catalogs. We send 350,000 catalogs every month out to people. And I used to get all this stuff in my mailbox, right? J. Crew catalogs, Eddie Bauer catalogs, you name it, whatever. And I used to just, oh God, I gotta throw all this stuff away. Now I'm so excited to get it. And I go into the office and say, this is the best junk catalog I ever got. So tonight I could stand here and we'll get a lot of feedback. Is that better? Tonight I can stand here and talk to you guys for an hour and bore you to tears, but I don't want to do that. So what I decided to do was I found several speakers who volunteered actually to go out and give a sales pitch. And I coached several of them in advance just to get a little bit of the rhythm. Some of them I didn't get to, and hopefully they'll volunteer to come up tonight as well. I'll try to introduce them in the order of degree of preparation to some extent. But give them a break and give them feedback. They're learning up here. I'm going to coach them not just on their sales pitch, but I'm actually going to coach them on their stage presence and delivery. Now, I know that in most sales situations, how often do you actually get up and present in front of a group of 100 people? It doesn't really happen, right? I mean, what do you do when you give a sales presentation usually? It's a real question. Good answer. I'm going to bite. What do you do when you give a sales presentation?
WebEx.
You do a WebEx, right? What else?
Sit at a table with people.
Yeah, you sit.
Intentionally, rather than standing up in front of them. Separate.
No one stands up anymore, right? Like, no one does that. In a TED Talk, people stand up, but it's really, it creates too much distance, too much formality between you and the person that you're speaking to. So what we're going to do tonight is a little bit artificial, because the truth of the matter is, when you're having a normal sales call, You're having a consultative, whatever you want to call it, spin selling, consultative selling, challenger selling, whatever methodology is you're into, you're having a consultative discussion and discovering what the needs are of the individual and trying to map your particular solution to their needs, right? I mean, so what we're gonna do tonight is a little bit artificial, but I think it's a good exercise to help you refine what your critical message is. And in the course of the evening, I'll share 2 frameworks, and you can tell I'm probably a crap-ass salesperson because I'm gonna give you those 2 things right now. The first one is just a framework to think about what your pitch should be structured like. And it goes like this. The first part in any pitch, quite obviously, is the value prop. You'd be surprised at how few people actually can express their value prop in a very concise way. I see heads shaking because you probably feel it yourselves, or you've had people pitch to you and you feel that. So the value prop, I like to encourage people to frame it in a very particular way, which is for whom, that's your audience member, your person you're engaging with, to what, so that why. So what your product does, that's the what, and so that why is what's the benefit to that individual. Basic, right? I mean, this is not rocket science, this is new stuff. But again, you'd be surprised at how much people struggle. And even the folks that I coached, without naming names, the vast majority of them struggled with that to what, so that why, so that they could very concisely pitch what they did and what the major benefit was. So we'll work a little bit on that. The next piece of it is once you've done that, you have to articulate the problem that people have, so that they can say, hey, yeah, you know, that is my problem. They can agree with you or disagree with you, or you can find the problem. Once the problem is advanced, then you're going to talk about what your solution is. You've now earned the permission to actually talk about that. Whatever your solution is going to have issues, so it's going to raise objections, and you need to handle them. I just finished rereading Spin Selling. Who's read Spin Selling? Yeah, if you haven't read it, it's a great book. It was written, what, 25, 30 years ago? Right. And it remains just spot on, absolutely spot on. And it was so ahead of its time that it presaged, I think, all the stuff that you see now. Very rooted in science. In Spin Selling, it actually says, don't be an objection handler, be an objection preventer. That the most successful people don't actually handle objections, they prevent objections. Again, what we're doing tonight is a little artificial, so I'm going to ask people to sort of raise those objections and knock them down. Once you've knocked down the objections, the final step is, what's the last thing you do in a sales call? What is it?
Ask for the order.
You either ask for you ask for the next step, right? If you're at the point where you can, if you're in the type of situation where you can close, go ahead and close. I think a lot of people now reject the always be closing, Glenn Ross thing, as being a little too aggressive. Although I wouldn't mind looking like Albert, well, maybe the younger version of Alec Baldwin, like circa 1980, I guess. So the last thing you need to do is you need to move the sale forward in some meaningful way. That might be the commitment to move on and do a demo or a trial. That might be a commitment for the next meeting with another decision maker who's involved in the situation. Whatever it is, it's a commitment for them to do something that involves some investment of their time. So you're asking for an action. So real simply, nothing that I've invented, but value prop, which is for whom, to what, so that why, the problem that is at hand, the solution that you have to address that problem, handle objections, and then move the sale forward either to close or to the next step. Make sense? Did I miss anything? Got a lot more smarter people who've been doing sales probably for a lot longer than I have in the room. So, let me know if I did. That's one framework, okay? The second framework, which we may get to, and I don't know if he got here or not. Abid? Yeah. Oh, that's you. All right, cool. So Abid will show us another one, which has to do with storytelling. And I'm going to give you a quick storytelling framework. You know what? I'm going to hold that one off. That's a tease, right? It's like a sales tease. I'll hold off the storytelling framework until he comes, because I already feel like I'm talking for too long. So we're going to welcome up the first speaker, who's here. Just wait 1 second. So Ellen Hunt from Tactile Finance. She'll come up here. She's going to give her pitch, and think about what she does, and then we'll talk a little bit about what her pitch was, what was missing, what worked for you, what objections you had, whether you would buy from her, what the issues were. As different speakers come up tonight, I might coach them on their content. I might coach them on their delivery, on their stage presence. We'll see what happens as we go. I've got only a few people that I coached in advance. So tonight is all about you guys. If you want to be coached live, then just raise your hand when I ask for volunteers and come up. It's a what happens in enterprise sales meetup, is that what this is called? Stays in enterprise. What happens in enterprise sales meetup stays in enterprise sales meetup. So if you come up here, don't worry, don't sweat it. This is a community of your peers who are trying to support you and help you grow so that when you go out, you can close more business. You can do, whether it's a pitch to raise money or a pitch to close business. So let's go ahead and give a hand to Ellen, please.
Thank you. I have met, I don't know how many of you, I've been coming since September. Mark thinks I'm a charter member. I missed August. It's not true. So I want to thank everybody in advance for helping me. So before I get started, what I'd like you to imagine is that you are a financial advisor, a wealth manager, a financial planner, someone in that field. So, and I want to talk to you. So my name is Ellen Hunt. I'm with, already I'm screwed up here. I'm with Tactile Finance. We've developed a residential real estate decision-making platform to help financial advisors like you work with their clients to create more wealth. So what the hell is a residential real estate decision-making platform? Well, I'm certain from time to time you have a client who comes in and they want to get a mortgage, or they want to refinance the mortgage. And so they think, gee, I could just go over to Wells Fargo, or I could go to a mortgage broker. And but they call you up and they go, you know what, how should I think about this? What kind of mortgage should I get? So I want to tell you a little story. I am the president of the board of my co-op, and I have two young guys that bought into our building, both of them 30 years old, both of them out of financial services, and one of them, they bought little tiny one-bedrooms. And so they bought, and the first one decided, rates are so low, let me take a 30-year mortgage. That was it. Second guy had bought, and he said, you know what, I think I'm going to refinance, and he spent quite a bit of time researching. And what he came up with was an interest-only, adjustable rate, an ARM, mortgage. And what he was able to do, and it was the same price, he was able to cut his mortgage in half. So he had $18,000 of free cash flow that he could invest. He had another $18,000 because it was an interest only, and his tax rate was high. He completely took that, it was covered, he could deduct it from his income. So he's basically living there for free. He's got $36,000 a year that he can now invest. So the question is, who's better off? And that's where you as a financial advisor come in. You want to be able to sit down with your clients and help them figure out what's the right solution for me? What's going to have the best impact long term? And you don't want to use a calculator. So what a lot of you guys do, and I know you do it, you say, okay, let me do some analysis. And you run off, and either you do it or your assistant does it. They spend an hour, they do these spreadsheets, they're calling the bank, trying to figure all this stuff out, then they have to get back to you, and then they're going to email you the spreadsheets, and you're going to look at this mind-numbing spreadsheet stuff, and you're going to say, I don't know. So, right? You know who you are. And your client is now in indecision land. So we have a solution that gets rid of all of that. And so let me just figure, I think that you probably spend an hour putting the stuff together, sometime chasing them down, getting an appointment, emailing them. You spend an hour on the phone going over the mind-numbing numbers. But we have a solution that allows you to, when your client calls right then and there, if they're on their computer, if they've got an iPad, they've got a phone, you can share a screen securely and start to show them dynamically through visuals what the impact of a mortgage decision will be. And you can do that in 10 to 15 minutes. So, here's the deal. For us, we can save you probably 2 hours per client. So you can figure out what that costs you and whether or not you give better service to a client by engaging them to collaborate with you on what's, for them, a very important investment decision, their net worth in their home. So it is a really important decision, and it's an important decision for somebody at some point in their life. Maybe when they become ultra wealthy, it becomes much less, but at the start, it's important. And your job as a financial advisor, you have this opportunity to help them unlock the economic power of their home, to finally treat their home as if it's an asset like any other asset, a stock, a bond, or anything else, and to help them create real wealth or protect real wealth. Getting a mortgage, it's not one and done, it goes over, there's a life cycle to it. So the ROI for our product for you is very rapid. One, it saves you time. So you can do the computation on how much time. Two, it gives you an opportunity to get new clients. And I can talk to you about how you would do that. Another way is if you charge, some of you have a hybrid model where you charge a fee for consultation. And so that's another way, and you can create a whole new service of working with people on this most important decision. And that can also lead to new business. So and I guess the biggest objection that we hear is, well, I can get a calculator. Well, let me tell you, a calculator is not in the same league. It doesn't help you address tax issues. It doesn't help you look at the fees that are in a mortgage. Our solution enables you to do that. So, does anyone have any questions? So if you see some fit and value, I'd like to find out what is the next step in your decision-making process. Yes.
How much does the service cost?
It's $1,200, $1,250 a year. It's per seat subscription. Yes?
Do you have an example of customers who actually charge price?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you have customers who actually charge their customers price? Some example?
They could. There is some that do. One of the other things I didn't tell you is, besides being able to, that it's a mobile app, you can give the app, you can actually share the app with your clients so they can play with the app itself to see how they're building wealth. And then if they wanted to talk to their tax advisor, they can send it to them. If they want to send it to their parents, whatever. It's very, very highly shareable, very viral. So it's a great way for you to get your brand out into the marketplace.
Is it secure?
Yes.
So I can put my brand on your platform?
Yes, it's always white labeled for every client. So at the top, it has your name, your photo, your logo, all of your contact information. So as you're working with a client, you can then send it to them, and it has your name. They might send it to their banker, they may send it to their accountant, they may send it to their attorney, and wherever it goes, your name goes with it.
Can you tell me more on how it is secure?
The way I cannot answer that question. I'm not the technologist. I'd have to get that answer for you. Yes?
You have a trial. Is there a trial available?
No, what we do is there are some pages of this that will allow you to play with, but we don't give you the application because it takes a lot of time to set it up, for us to set it up and get you on our servers and do the training. So we're happy to allow you to use one of the pages to just play with it. So what is your concern that you would like to, what more would you like to know?
Well, I think you have to try it with some clients to see if they think it's useful.
Okay.
They're the ones that are going to like it or not.
So we have some testimonials from clients that we'd be very happy to share with you. Okay. We've actually tested this with several hundred individuals, and the general comment is that they can see for the first time what are all of the components of a mortgage. and they have much more confidence and they're less stressed about getting a mortgage.
Well, if that's true, it's probably worthwhile.
Yeah. Yes?
It's not a question so much, maybe I shouldn't do this kind of critique or something, but I think like you ought to be asking maybe, do we have any clients in this situation? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's a great point.
And saying, so do you have anybody taking out a mortgage or and get us to talk more?
Okay,
you know?
yes. I actually, this is very stilted for me when I do everything on the phone, so I don't get to see people. And I have to establish a rapport, but usually I'll say, you know, how are you doing this now? That's how come I know. If I do this spreadsheet, you know, I until the fax it, and then I got to get so-and-so on the phone. Here, they're like, you know, and then they talk about, you know, the client can't decide. It's like, you know that they're like, hello, did you get my fax? So that's usually when they get to that frothy, oh, would you like to want this?
All right, Ellen, I'm going to hold you out here. Let's give her a hand. Thank you. All right, so let's deconstruct what she did. All right, and let's first just deconstruct framework-wise so you can see it unfold. So the first thing is the value prop. So what's her value prop? To what so that why? From the perspective of the financial advisor that she's pitching to. Yep.
To the financial advisor to make money and save time, and to their clients to increase their wealth.
Yeah, so I think that's the why part, which is the financial advisor can save time for their clients, and in doing so, build stronger relationships and make more money, right? So that's the why. To what's the what? What does she want them to leverage in order to make that benefit come to life for that? Yep. It's obvious.
Yeah, use this tool to better understand mortgage dynamics.
Right, so to adopt the tactile finance platform, whatever it is, for your network of financial advisors so that your financial advisors can build deeper relationships with their clients, help their clients be wealthier and happier and so on, and in the process make more money for themselves and the firm, right? So that's the two what so that why, the value prop. All right, what's the problem that she's addressing?
Mortgages are confusing.
Mortgages are confusing, yeah, I heard something else.
Very time consuming process.
Yeah, it's time consuming. You've got 30-year, 20-year, 15-year, 8-year, 7, whatever. You've got floating, you've got adjustment, right? You've got this whole complexity. Whenever you go to do financing, it's a really complicated thing. So it's a problem that I think resonates reasonably. Particularly if you're a financial advisor, I think it's a problem that resonates with you. What's the solution? It is the tactile finance platform. What features this is where you get the permission to introduce some features. What features and functionality does it have, which is part of the solution? One or two. Yeah.
It's better than a calculator. It's visual. It's easy to understand, easy to convey the competing approaches.
Yeah, it's visual. It's easy to compare the different types of mortgages. Get them back.
She talked about sharing with her trust circle, whether it's her advisor or her other brokers.
Right, so you can actually share it and find ways to build a kind of network of value for your customers. It's fast, so we got a bunch of benefits to the platform. The objection actually just came up, which is the objection, and when she told me about it, I said, well, can't I just go online for a mortgage calculator and do this? What I did, 12 years ago. And she said, no, actually, this is different. This is so much better and faster and more useful for a financial advisor to use with their customer. It's a step above a standard mortgage calculator that you would find online. And then finally, what's the ask of you as a financial advisor? I'm not sure that she got
I did. I said, what is the next, if you see value in this, what are the next steps?
Yeah. So you could ask that, or you have two different ways, right? You could do that very soft. That's a very soft close. Or you could do a little bit more of a, I wouldn't do a presumptive close because that's very Glengarry, Glen Ross. But you could say something like, so, would you, a question I'd love to ask, which has to do with authority, right? The BANT model the A in BANT is authority. I don't like to ask people whether they have the authority to make the decision on the product. The question I like to ask is, so who else in your organization is involved in the decision-making process? It's a great question, because then they'll tell you, actually, no, I've got a $30 million budget, I've got this. Or there's somebody who says, oh, you know what, I really need my purchasing department to be involved, or my CFO, or my CEO, or my CIO, or whomever, right? So that question is a really, really delicate way of establishing an authority. Let's give her two pieces. We don't give her a lot of love, which we just gave her a lot of love. Let's give her 2 pieces of constructive feedback. So I'll take 2 from out there, I'll give her 2 as well. Don't worry, it's okay. Yeah. One right here.
No, this is actually a compliment.
No, you can't give her a compliment now. You gotta wait. You gotta do it afterwards. Constructive feedback.
My first question was why now? Why wasn't this something I listened to 3 years ago? Why today?
Okay, so his constructive feedback is the pitch needs a greater sense of urgency. Right? Is that accurate?
Yeah, what's newsworthy? Why should I be listening? Why am I this person? How'd you get in here? I mean, there's nothing that really my ears pick up and say, boy, I really need to be listening to what she's saying. It's a nice pitch, but there was nothing that was newsworthy where I'd be like an idiot not to listen to this woman. And that's what I want to feel like.
Yeah.
I want to feel like it would be against my fiduciary responsibility not to listen to you. That's what I want to get from this.
And one more.
The objection about using a calculator, I think, could have been a lot stronger in how she differentiated their strengths over the weakness of a calculator.
Yes.
Instead of delivering it as the common objection we hear is X, I think you can just go into why your offering is so strong,
Yes.
and how futile it is to use a calculator. It's cumbersome, error prone. You won't get the right information. You won't deliver the best results.
You gotta kill the calculator.
You gotta kill the calculator.
You gotta kill the calculator.
And not plant the seed that people have objections to my software.
Yes.
Right, at the same time.
Yeah, and ordinarily you wouldn't raise the objection. We got actually people dying to do it, so let's do it more. Yeah.
I would have preempted the lack of knowledge about security with a statement when they asked about it, saying, oh, I'd love to put you in touch with someone, or I'll share some documentation, or whatever it is, to sort of preempt your lack of knowledge about the security.
Right. So the issue was somebody asked a question about how, is it secure? She said yes. Then somebody had a follow-up question, which is, okay, well, tell me about the security. And in that case, like you will now in the future be prepared to answer that question. But what you really need is a much stronger, oh, I'll go find the technical person to answer that. I think that security has become so foundational to app deployment that that's a question that actually I don't think you can afford to defer. And his point was there are some other ways to handle it, even if you're not a super technical person. But at least you can say, look, I know that we are on Amazon Web Services and we use whatever 128-bit blah, blah, blah encryption. That's about all my technical folks have told me. If you want to go deeper, you can talk. I can arrange a call with them. Yes.
If she doesn't know if it's secure and she says, yes, it is secure, what do you advise in that case? Should she have said yes?
Yeah, I think she can say yes. I think she just needs to rehearse the response. Because if you say, I don't know, or no, I think that's a lower credibility thing than what she ended up doing. Yeah, in the back.
I'd established the value proposition up front. So I really like the storytelling approach, but the value proposition came a little bit too late into the piece. You want to draw your audience in from the start.
Yeah, so his comment was actually going to be my piece of constructive feedback. He said for him, the value prop felt like it was developing over time as she laid the story out. And I think the reason, here's my constructive piece of feedback, which I think the reason that happened is actually the way she started, which is you have the maximum attention from your audience in those first moments. Right? When I got up here, what was the first thing I said? You guys remember? I love spam, right? It might be the only thing you remember about me when or you never remember anything about me. I like catalogs, right? I mean, it's this kinds of stuff that people remember. We're totally fine. I'm cool with that. So in this case, she lost ground in the very beginning by thanking people. By the way, when you're in a public speaking site like a TED Talk or whatever, you should thank people, but you do it at the end. You don't do it at the beginning. Watch every TED Talk. They're the ones who've been coached. they've all been coached to thank the audience at the end, not at the beginning, because you lose momentum when you do that. So thank them at the end. And then she said, before I get started, I have a pet peeve about before I get started. She started already. So my advice, which marries with what the gentleman in the back said, is when you get up there, you got like, that's it. You got 10 seconds to establish your two what, so, that, why. Hi, I'm Ellen from Tactile Finance. We offer a residential mortgage, whatever platform to help financial advisors and their networks save their clients time and money, build deeper relationships and whatever. Boom, now you got me, I'm hooked, and you've given, and you've earned the permission to now go and through the pitch.
I mean, couldn't you make that the first thing you say?
You should make that the very,
like
very
before,
first thing.
Before you even say what it is you do, maybe just
that's it.
Where
Yes.
you're from, and then the benefit right to them.
You must get right to
elevator
it.
pitch.
You start with the elevator pitch, your two what, so, that, why statement right off the bat. It's the most important piece of feedback I have for you. Yes?
I feel like maybe there was a little bit too much time spent on the value proposition between who she's pitching to and their customer, although that a lot of the time that they're aligned. I feel like it's kind of risky because if you don't nail exactly what they consider their value proposition, then you're devalued. And it's just, they already know what it is, so it's just kind of respect on that.
Yeah, the point was maybe she spent sort of too much time developing the value prop. I think that was the artificial nature of being up here. That what I would do if I were in, and I know what Ellen would do if she were in that situation with a financial advisor would be, she might or might not even start off with that pitch in a setting where you were having the conversation, right? You're in the sort of discovery mode before that, because the worst thing is to presume that the customer has a problem that they don't have. Because if she says that and they don't have that problem, then where does she go next? And one of the great piece of advice that I once learned was you should have in your mind, this is your pre-call planning, you should have in your mind the 2 or 3 most likely problems that customer is likely to have. So often, the people who are interested in whatever your product or service is have the same set of problems. Sometimes there'll be a unique problem, but in my sales force, what's probably my biggest, I run a sales force of 70 people, what's probably my biggest problem? My salespeople are not what? Well, they're not, they can have more activity, but they're not, they can never be productive enough, right? Salespeople can never be productive enough. So if you came into me with a sales productivity solution, then you've got my attention. And you don't have to know anything about my company to know that. The more you know about us, the better, but I think that's an important point. Yes?
Along the line of the value proposition, I found that she spent a lot of time on the value proposition to the end user.
Yes.
But the financial advisor has his own interests, right?
Yes.
In this case, $1,200 is eating up his margin.
Yes.
So if he's not going to get more revenue or any of the savings, he's better off not using it. The value proposition is strong for the end user, but not so strong for him.
Yes, I
or
agree.
you can bullshit and say, look, don't trust me, it's like a 30-year mortgage, it's a 7-year arm.
Yeah. So to reiterate that, I think this is another really, really critical point. The reason that you spend time at the beginning of a presentation or a pitch or whatever, thinking about for whom, to what, so that why, the reason you do that is so that you just stay completely laser focused on that as you go through. So the problem that was just highlighted was a lot of the explanation had to do with the pain that the customer's customer felt. It's important pain, but with limited amount of time, what you really need to do is focus on the pain that the customer is feeling, in this case, the financial advisor. So I agree, I think there was probably too much focus on the customer's customer. Touch on that, because there has to be benefit, but spend a little bit more time on the customer. Yeah, well, this is great. All right, go ahead.
There was a couple of times that there was like a mocking tone when she was like impersonating somebody with objection. It made me feel like it reflected poorly on her, actually, to do that.
That you want to show respect for your customer's customer also, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very
like
fair comment.
you don't want to be somebody that holds anybody in that esteem.
Yeah. I mean, you want to, in this, I think it's also, I'll give her the benefit of the doubt here, that in this forum, you want to make people laugh a little bit to break the tension. So I think that's probably a piece of it. You wouldn't necessarily do that, I think, in a sales pitch. When you do get a laugh in a forum like this, by the way, the best thing to do is just pause and let it ride out. A lot of people make the mistake of stepping on their laughter. Yep, there was another one there in the back.
Yeah, there was a statement in there where she said that this product will save you time by not having to do your own analysis. Whereas a financial advisor, their value proposition to their clients is that they're doing financial analysis for them, that they're the experts.
Yes.
So that made me concerned,
Yeah, you want to, this is a show them that you know them piece of feedback, which is if you say you may not want to do the analysis, actually it's the customer's customer who doesn't want to do the analysis. The financial advisor does want to do the analysis, and therefore you should speak to their inner nerd as you go through.
So I'd be interested
Any
in
financial advisors here?
how it would be more customizable, if someone wanted to do analysis, or at least like how it helps them do their analysis faster as opposed to take it over.
Yes.
I'm just imagining if I were in that role.
Yes. This time I really will do just one more because I want to get to the story piece. So one more? Yep.
Yeah, I was curious, since time was a benefit, saving time, what the cost of the financial advisor's time is. If you can calculate that, if you talk about other clients that you have saved time for, and this is how it paid off for them.
Yeah, I think that would be an excellent add with the ROI. All right, so I'm going to give you the second framework right now. We'll have Abid come up and speak, and you'll see whether he's demonstrating that or not, and then we will have run out of time because I'm going to get yanked with the claw. So the second framework is how to tell a story. People think, I don't know how to tell a story, but we're all natural-born storytellers. We sometimes just forget a good framework. So here's the framework that I use. It's called the Pixar pitch, and if you don't have a pen, just go Google the Pixar pitch. The Pixar pitch is a 3-act structure, just like you learned in school. And each act has 2 parts. And go watch any movie, any play, any whatever, you're going to see this. Act 1 is once upon a time and every day. That establishes what's called the ordinary world. And ends with until one day. That's the inciting incident that casts the hero into some journey. Once upon a time and every day, until one day. That's Act 1. Act 2 is, and because of that. So the hero reacted to whatever happened at the end of Act 1, and because of that, there was a chain reaction, and that's called the rising action in the story. There was a chain reaction of events and consequences that arose out of that. Act 1 ends with Act 2 ends with until finally. So once upon a time and every day, until one day, and because of that, until finally. And then Act 3 is, and after that. So now this is what happens after the climax of the story. And then it ends with, and the moral of the story is X. So a little bit fast version, but that's the Pixar pitch. I wanted to give Ellen a free audio version of my book.
Oh, thank you.
And then thank you, Ellen.
So I'm going to give, is it working?
Yeah.
So I'm going to give a background on a client. So a large global legal firm with over 1,000 attorneys was experiencing challenges managing a SharePoint deployment with additional third-party software and custom software applications. As a result, the software installation became unstable and production environment became complex, and the firm experienced unplanned outages and errors were constantly being introduced to the software. The issue became a major problem with the prestigious law firm. They can't risk any downtime and having access to client data. The client reached out to Cubisys, the company, to solve the problem with replicating their testing environments that resemble the production environment with and QA and UAT testing. The law firm was unable to manually replicate the environment on its own with accurate configurations for testing and deployment, and the problem became so large that they would ignore it and just hope that the software would work. So they approached Cubisys and they used the product to migrate their SharePoint 2007 to 2010 upgrade, and the configuring software as included, and the experience was seamless using the product for testing. After using Cubisys platform, the law firm was able to quickly deploy software without any issues and with greater confidence. The law firm no longer experienced any issues with maintaining complex software and avoided downtime and from injecting any new errors into the software in a production setting. The law firm was able to leverage the Cubisys platform to automate accurate testing environments on demand and deployed software into production without any problems, with full confidence of continuous integration and deployment. As a result, the law firm was saving over $2 million in the first year and increased their productivity and required less resources to manage their testing environments.
Perfect, yeah, perfect. All right, great job. Let's give him a hand. All right, since we don't have a lot of time, I'm gonna do this one for you, okay? But you know, we can paint along or color along as we go. So, once upon a time and every day, what? Oh, there was a large law firm having problems, right, with scaling their infrastructure. Until one day, they had to grow even faster, and they were unsuccessful in growing faster. And because of that, they experienced downtime, outages, and so on, until finally, what happened? They called Cubisys, and after that, the Cubisys thing worked, and what benefits did they see? That's coming a little later. So like the downtime that they had been seeing went away.
And the errors went away.
The errors went away, right? So the moral of the story is deploy Cubisys for your software testing environment so that you can save money, $2 million in this case, so that you can increase the productivity of your organization, and so that you can do these things with less time and less effort and less energy. So it's kind of in there. My constructive feedback for you was twofold. One is like, dude, I gotta see you love the product. I didn't feel like he loves this. And I gotta feel like you love it if I'm gonna be convinced to buy from you. And you don't have to be off the wall crazy passionate about it, but you gotta be like I need a little more energy. I need more cowbell. I think that's probably my principal piece of feedback. The other piece of feedback had to do with story. There was one point where he introduced the until finally, the climax, which was that they found Cubisys, and he reversed the order of some of the and because of that's, and that's where you lose the audience. That order is really, really important. Once upon a time and every day, until one day, and because of that, until finally, and after that, and the moral of the story is, if you screw with the order of that, you mess up the story. So that switcheroo in Act 2, I mean the rhyme there, but that switch in Act 2 caused a degree of confusion, I think, in the storytelling, so just be careful with that. If you get really sophisticated, you can actually you can have parts that are implied. You don't actually have to say every one of the parts if the part's implied, but usually just follow that and you'll know if you're telling a good story or not. I think I've got like 5 minutes for questions in general. Yeah?
Just one comment on that last presentation. I think it's important if we're going to be introducing the storytelling technique, which I think is fantastic, is it needs some drama.
Yes.
You know, there's got to be a reason why these events are happening, and there's got to be some tension in there. So one of the things that perhaps one might do is ask themselves the question, when they're writing each of those statements or those incidences, ask yourself the question, so what?
Yes, yeah, so the
When you
point,
ask so what, it sort of drives the reason for the meaning.
yeah, the point, just to restate it, was that you need more drama. Like if you're telling a story, you want as much drama as reasonable to put in that. A great way to do that is a great tip is to ask yourself, like, so what? Who cares? Why should I care? It's particularly important in Act 2 of it, where they're trying to do things and they're working their way towards the solution. That's a really, really critical time to raise the stakes. And the stakes are someone's going to get fired, someone's going to get, whatever, someone's going to get hurt, because there are solutions that people offer where people do get hurt, either financially or physically or whatever. Raise the drama to the point where the stakes really, really matter. I think that's an important point. Yep.
Can you give us a gist of the TED Talk?
My own TED Talk? It's like listening to myself on voicemail.
2 minutes.
The TED Talk was basically that I'm a public speaking super nerd, and it's all the stupid, ridiculous things that I have done in my life, learning about public speaking. But the moral of the story was basically that you need to be your own judge, right? And you need to persevere through failure of the things that you want to do. So I failed and failed and failed in ridiculous public speaking things. And then I banged out this kind of silly little book, and then the thing that I least expected to have any degree of success with had a degree of success. And my point was just, yeah, don't judge your worth by the way that other people judge your content. My daughter, I have a 14-year-old daughter, and she's on this site called DeviantArt. Does anyone know DeviantArt? Yeah? So she puts stuff up there, and she gets likes or hearts, whatever she got. What do you get when you put stuff up? You get something, likes. So she gets likes, and when she doesn't get likes, she's miserable. And I say, it breaks my heart, and I say, don't, just, if it's your art, it's no matter where it is, yeah, you're on a learning journey. I'm not one to say everything's great, you're wonderful, you're perfect. You're on a learning journey, and just be satisfied with where you are on that learning journey. And that's kind of what gets at what I talked about as well. Yeah.
So the question about the storytelling technique, more technical, when should you use this? And it's probably not the first pitch that you're gonna, when you call the customer, you're gonna say the story.
Yeah. Storytelling, I think, is when you have a little bit more time and comfort with the customer. If you got to dinner, right? I think no one does it there anymore, but lunch, right? If you got to lunch. If you are in a setting like this, I could have started out with a story, right? So there are times where you would do it. Stories tend to be, and you got to find ways to compress them. I think people's attention spans are shorter and shorter. So if you can compress your story as much as possible, that's ideal. And you have to choose your time. So hold on, do you have a question?
I just did the same one.
Yeah, you gotta pick your time. I will really do just 2 more. Okay, so 1 in the back, and then I'll do 1 on this side. I'll do you. Okay, so 1, 2, and I'll be here to answer questions.
Yeah, just to piggyback off this. Yes, you do need drama when you're doing storytelling. I think 2 important points are A, tonality. So it's like when you're speaking, don't be monotone.
Yes.
Vary your tone, and vary your tone strategically. So when you deliver, you deliver well.
Yes.
I think that's very important. And I think another important thing is to use pauses to create effect. And when you can do those things well, you can, in 2 minutes, tell a great story.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so much as his point is basically so much is in the delivery. People pay attention to anything that's transitional, right? So whether it's a vocal inflection, if I'm speaking fast and then I start speaking slow, if I pause, if I repeat, if I move, right? Whatever it happens to be, people are paying attention. So you want to try to synchronize, to the extent possible, those inflections with where the key messages are that you want people to notice, right? So I could do that. I could step forward, and I'm decreasing the interpersonal space between us. All these little contrasting things can have a big impact on how people comprehend what you're saying. Last question.
My question was the same, but I would wonder, when you're working on things like that, do you rehearse? Like, what tips do you have for people to really perfect? Because I think that is what, in the storytelling setting or storytelling.
It's like I planted you and paid you to ask me that question. So I don't want to hurt anyone. So one of my things with Q&A is you always got to, you can't just leave it on thank you, goodbye, right? So he asked me like the perfect question, and I'll repeat it, which is, to what extent do I rehearse before I go in? And here's what I discovered after 20 years of working on public speaking. For the first at least decade, if not more, I was in Toastmasters, which is a big public speaking organization, and I practiced religiously. I tried to figure out what like anger looked like and sounded like, and what happiness looked like and sounded like, and joy and sadness and whatever, right? Because I don't know that I had that, you know, I'm probably somewhere on the Asperger's spectrum, I guess. I don't know that I had to like learn what it was. And I practiced the pauses, I practiced all kinds of things. And after whatever it was, 10, 15 years, I was actually going to do a TED Talk, actually, so it gets back to that. A week before I went to my Toastmasters club, and I practiced it, and I completely failed. And I've been working on it for 3 months, and it was the worst speech I had ever given after practicing public speaking in general for over a decade and practicing this thing for months and months. I went in my car and I cried my eyeballs out. I mean, I was miserable. I was distraught, completely distraught. And at that moment, I had like this thing hit me, which is just let it all go. And since that time, what I do now is I know thematically what I want to talk about, but I don't over-rehearse. And a week later, after I did that practice, I got up to give a TED Talk, and I basically winged it. You wouldn't necessarily know it from watching it, but I just told my own story about what my life was like as a speaking nerd. So I'm not advocating that you don't rehearse, but I am advocating that what you concentrate on is where we started, which is the to what so that, for whom, to what so that why. If you know that, then you will be successful. Like tonight, I just had 2 things in mind. I wanted to give you the framework for a pitch, value prop, problem, solution, handle objections, move to close. Objective 1, I had a second objective, which is I wanted to give you the Pixar pitch, once upon a time and every day until one day, and because of that, finally, and after that, and the moral of the story is, if I got those 2 things done, whether 10 people came up and spoke or 2, I accomplished my objective. So my short answer to you is give yourself the compassion and forgiveness to not be perfect when you speak, to not be perfect when you pitch, to not be perfect in whatever you do, and you're actually more likely to be successful in whatever you do. So thank you, I'll be up here to answer
Huge thank you to Jeremy and also our 2 speakers tonight. You guys did a hell of a job. Thank you so much for making it out tonight. I just want to say one thing real quick. Oxio, incentive-based referral and cross-selling software for sales to a wonderful company. May 19th is going to be our next meetup. We invite you to come out for that. Please do come and join us.
And also thank you to Scale. We've got to mention them. They're really, really great. Just helping organizations better understand their sales process.